Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Leaders Hub. This is a special edition of our show all about the STX Next Mexico project office branch. Call it what you want. Here with me today is Jose Mendoza. Jose, how are you doing today?
Hi, Kua. Nice to talk to you. Everything is going perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very glad to have you here with us. And thank you so much, dear watchers and listeners, for joining us here today. Whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the recording, we appreciate you all the same. If you are watching live, let us know that you can hear us and let us know that you can see us. We've got a very exciting session lined up for you here today. I'm going to be asking Jose here from STX Next questions all about how the STX Next Mexico project went, how this whole story unfolded, and we're going to focus on sharing some actionable tips and strategies that tech leaders can take away from here and apply to their own projects. If you're thinking of expanding abroad, starting a new global branch, you can benefit from the experience of somebody who's done it, and that somebody is on the call here with us. Łukasz Toszyński on YouTube is saying that everything is fine with an emoji. Thanks, Łukasz, for telling us that everything is okay. Jose, so let me ask you like this. People are going to be joining in for a little while longer. What do you think? Who do you hope is joining in today in terms of what kind of person and what kind of situation will benefit from the knowledge and experience that we have to share here today? Who do you think that would be?
I would say anyone who's aspiring to go the next step in terms of expansion, business expansion, because basically this is something that, is becoming pretty much necessary in our market currently. So I think that COVID brought a lot of challenges, but also taught us how to behave in a way that we can start interacting in a better way, whether we're here, whether you're in America or in any other continent. So I think that this opened a completely new set of possibilities, and that would be basically it.
Yes, I certainly would agree. So if you're in a similar situation, you're thinking of expanding globally anytime in the future, or you're just curious about the STX Next Mexico office, then stay tuned and we'll talk about that. Justina Dados is saying hello there. Well, hello there too. Right back at you. Thanks for joining us on Tech Leaders Hub. The comments section is where the entire action of Tech Leaders Hub is, by the way, watchers and listeners. So please leave comments, ask your questions if you're curious about anything that we're going to be discussing. By all means, let's make this a conversation, not just between Jose and me, but between y'all and us. So in the meantime, Jose, I wanted to fulfill the Tech Leaders Hub tradition and ask you the traditional Tech Leaders Hub question. We've asked this to dozens of tech leaders already. And this is our way to thank everybody for joining right from the start and give some value right from the start. So, Jose, off the top of your mind, what is your number one tip for tech leaders that you can share?
I would say listen to the market. And I will be debriefing on why, but basically, that's the very reason for which I'm here today, ready to take this new challenge. Because I think at the beginning it was myself, but then we as a company, we were ready to listen to the market. And basically, that's what led us to have all this planning and all these decisions, because we were understanding that despite at the very beginning this was not the plans set for this year, we understood that the market is requiring it, and then we are taking the challenge currently.
Yeah, I love that tip. And I think it would be very good for us to go a little bit deeper into this as we go into the session of how exactly are you supposed to listen to the market? How exactly you found out that these signals were kind of showing up and what made you kind of spring into action there. That's coming up in just a moment. Cesar is waving at us. Lovely. Agnieszka is saying hi, and right back at you, Agnieszka. Saw your recent video that you're hiring a social media specialist with a cat in the background. I love that. You should check out Agnieszka's profile if you haven't seen that yet. And Agnieszka's already happy that she attended Tech Leaders Hub today, and we gave her that plug. Okay, Jose. So a lot of the people joining in, well, some of them definitely know you. I can see some people from STX Next here. That's great. Some probably won't know you or won't know your story that well. So how about you tell us a little bit, the most important information that that a person needs to know about your background, your experience, that basically, allowed you to get to this point. How did we get to this point that Jose is starting this STX Next Mexico branch?
Sure. So first of all, well, I'm Mexican, but also I'm Polish. So
Oh,
I'm proud to say that I got the citizenship. Well, it was already 1 year ago or so.
wow, congrats.
And I've been living in Poland for almost 13 years. And basically, most of my professional life has been happening here in Europe, specifically in Poland. Basically, when we were discussing about the next steps, the next milestones we as a company would like to achieve, definitely the idea of expanding globally was there on the table. So this is nothing new. I can still remember that it was 3.5 years or 4 years ago when we, for the very first time, started thinking about how to make that happen. Back then, it was about some baby steps, maybe hire some people, maybe make some allocation to specific projects, and we started doing that. But then COVID jumped in, and well, it was a turmoil for everything. So it changed the way
Of
in
course.
which operate, in which we work, in which we cooperate, and well, it was a kind of challenge. But everyone knows that, yeah, everyone went through this period. And when finally everything was settling down, we understood how can we really make up the best of this very, very pandemic situation. I think for me, it was an eye opener, because I was thinking, okay, maybe it's time to think about Mexico again. And I was just posing that question into the air. I was speaking with different people in the company and say, guys, what about this Mexico plan? So Jose, it's part of our strategy, but maybe in 2 or 3 years, something like that. So let's
Uh-huh,
see.
uh-huh.
So it was the first point in which, okay, the idea is still there on the table. Maybe it's not
Mhm.
developed enough, but it was already there.
Okay.
Uh,
Right. Okay. So that leads us right to the beginning of this story, I suppose. I wonder, because now you're talking about, these kind of, let's say, loose conversations, non-committal. People were being, curious about the idea and maybe entertaining the thought. Was there a moment that came when you thought that, okay, this is getting pretty serious? And is that moment something like a conversation between you and someone, or was it more like you made a decision that let's make it happen, let's make it real? How did that happen?
this is a very good question. I haven't really thought about that, but I would say that it was during one of the board meetings.
Uh-huh.
But this was already when the discussions were happening about the idea and about the house, how to make
Yeah.
that happen. And when I heard for the first time, okay, Jose, how would you see that happening? It was then when, oh boy, this is maybe getting serious.
Yeah.
uh, and after that, it was okay. I really need to consider a lot of things. One of them, for example, if I would be ready to relocate, which was not on the agenda, at least mine at the beginning. But yeah, I think that was the very moment when the board started pushing really concrete questions about how, when, how could you, etc.
Okay, yeah, I love that, and I can only imagine how you felt in that moment. So I have so many questions that I could follow this up with. So what do you think you did along the way that actually made this moment happen? So between these conversations that were kind of just exploring the idea. What did you do? Because I think in a lot of companies these conversations are happening. I'm trying to think of somebody similar to you in another company that's also thinking of making this step. And these loose conversations are happening. And he wants to get to that point. He or she wants to get to that point where somebody asks them, okay, how would you do that? So what happened in between those two stages? How would you describe that?
I think there are a couple of topics I could use to explain that, and one of them basically was, uh, and this is something I have always.
Sorry, Jose, I think you muted yourself.
Sorry, I was having a problem with my headset. I think right now
Okay.
it's okay.
Yeah, try again.
So basically, STX Next has been always a company open enough to hear their people. Um, a lot of things that have been happening in the company are coming from the very ideas of their people. Yeah, whether
Mhm.
to increase the service portfolio, whether to change the structure, what you called it, you have it. Yeah, so and when actually for those who don't know, I actually stopped being a really part of member of STX for 2 years and a half, in which I took some other challenges. And when I saw that the company kept on developing, I really said, wow, I would really come back and become again part of that world. Yeah, a
Yeah.
world that really provides this room for new ideas for experimenting. And then that happened. I came back, and I saw that indeed it was like I thought. So the company kept on having these ideas. I heard about the next plans for the future, for these 2 or 3 years, etc. And then it was when I posed for the very first time the question, guys, what happened with Mexico? Yeah, because we were having this approach I was saying before COVID,
Mhm.
and I was told, oh, so it's still there, but let's cook it for a little bit longer. Yeah, let's see how
Yeah.
it goes. And then the thing about listening to the market came in, because just
Yeah.
out of curiosity, Cuba, I was just doing some research of how the market is behaving, what are the needs and demands, etc. So okay, if 3 years ago we were planning to take this step, and back then there were not so many, for example, opportunities to deliver services to the US. 4 years after, it was a completely different story. So
Wow.
basically, I saw this. Well, it was already a big amount of companies settling in Mexico, serving the American market, which is basically one of the
Mhm.
very first rationales for opening a delivery center in Latin America, just to be able to address the needs of the American market within this specific time zone, which is quite a challenge when you think about delivering ID services from Europe. If you consider only the Central European time and the Central US time, there are 7 hours of difference.
Yeah, of
In some
course.
cases, when the times are changing, it can be up to 8. And then
Yeah.
this is not considering the West Coast, when normally you have -9 hours. So I saw this trend of a lot of companies, and even American companies settling down in Mexico, used to be able to have these interactions from the Mexican market. Say, oh, I think we have already lost the first train to make that happen. And
In the
then
first
I
train,
just
right? It's
well
like
took the liberty to come back to the board to say, listen, I know that we are willing to take some time to think about the Latin America, because back then it was not only Mexico, it was in general Latin American approach.
Mhm.
We want to make it happen in 2 or 3 years, but I would like to share with you that a lot has changed at least in the Mexican market, and
Mhm.
we should be aware of that if we don't want to lose another train, because then it can be already too late. And then the board was very open, say, okay, Jose, tell us more, bring some facts, bring some information, we need some
Yeah.
intel, just to understand the likelihood and the challenges and the risks, etc. And then I was doing some homework, and it took me around 1 month to really go deeper and doing my research, and
Mhm.
just put some numbers on paper, say, okay, this is it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would say that if we want to take the step, and if we are really serious about becoming global, we should do it a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And my smile kept on my face when it was then moment. Okay, Jose, how would you like that to happen? And
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was then when you were asking before, when I felt it was serious, it was exactly that moment in which then I just kept on doing the research. I started putting some numbers. I started researching about the location, where to make that happen, just considering where airports have direct connections to Europe and the US,
Mhm.
where is enough IT talent density, go to universities, etc., etc.
Uh-huh.
And that led to the very final proposal, which was basically accepted by the board, saying we are ready to go global.
Okay, amazing. I love that story. And just thinking about that moment, it's like watching a good movie. I feel myself in your
Kuval, just
shoes.
one thing. I don't know if it's myself, but I cannot hear you. Maybe it's my headset again.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Let me try and wait a moment.
Maybe someone from the audience could help us if it's me or something else.
Sorry, just a sec. I think Jose is not hearing us
Kuba is,
after all.
I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone. Good time to leave some comments. All good on Kuba's side. Okay.
So Kuba, it came out that it was indeed my headset. I don't know. It's maybe broken, but I'm here. I hope you can hear me well as well.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption.
So this was very fortuitous because we have a question coming in from Cesare. All right, so we can continue. We have a question coming in from Cesare. So I have some follow-up questions, a lot of follow-up questions about what you said. In a moment, I'm going to ask you definitely a lot more about how you did that research, what exactly you looked into, where you looked, who you spoke to, etc. But the questions coming in are, higher priority. So let's hear from Cesare. He's saying, what do you think will be the main recruitment focus? Okay, so he's getting into the details for what's coming up in the future. The main recruitment focus for Latin America and Mexico and the STX Next branch. Is it going to be universities or product companies or other service companies or relocations from Poland? Very interesting question. Thanks, Cesare, for asking it. Jose, how would you respond?
I would say we are not closing any doors, just simply as that. And so part of the research, and maybe it's going to be part of the answer of further questions, was to understand how the market in Mexico specifically behaves. So first of all, I was considering universities and the amount of potential IT engineers graduating from universities. That was one of the things. So yes, we are focusing on universities, but also what kind of companies are already operating in that market. And that means that we also will be looking for experienced individuals who have already hands-on experience working in this array we currently have in STX Next. So that could be both of them. And ultimately, we need to also explore if we are going to be able, from a legal perspective, to import talent from other countries. I think that the answer is yes, but we need to consider some paperwork because also currently we are undergoing a lot of different streams just to make this happen. One of them is reorganizing our internal processes, organizing as well the legal entities, so all the legal paperwork in Mexico, in order to really have a really concrete start, and thinking about hiring people from abroad without a proper employee permission is going to be the next challenge. But ultimately, we don't want to close any doors. So basically, answering Cesare's question, we are going to be ready to welcome talent regardless of the region.
Yeah, and I can absolutely understand that the competition on the market is big enough and fierce enough as it is. So we shouldn't be, I don't think, limiting our possibilities here. Obviously, it's a huge organizational and logistical challenge, but to keep all these doors open and to make all this possible. But I can see why that would be the direction. Very well then. So let's go back to, because there's still so much to cover. I want to ask you about, the research that went into this, kind of the idea of the Mexico branch in general, how it's going to work, and what actually made Mexico, and the location that we picked for our office such an attractive train to hop onto. But let's take this one topic at a time, right? So the research. I imagine, this is Tech Leaders Hub. I'm thinking of the tech leaders in the audience that are thinking of, I want to do this myself. They need details. How much can you share? How much can you tell us about how you did the research? What specifically you did? Any specific resources you can point people to, or like a specific mode of thinking? Should they be, reaching out to people? Should they be looking at? I should just hear your answer to that question. How did that
Sure.
research go? What details can you give us?
Well, I actually already mentioned that I'm Mexican, and despite the fact that I have spent, as I said, most of my professional life abroad, there are a lot of things I know, and that's basically part of being a Mexican, and part of I spent till the 23rd anniversary of my life in Mexico, basically. So I clearly understand how everything works in Mexico, how to search, where to search, etc. So it was completely natural for me if I was willing to understand how to create for example, an entity of a company in Mexico. Yeah, I was willing to go to the Ministry of Commerce of this kind of stuff. So I knew where to find, where to surf, and where to click, basically, also because of my mother tongue. So
Okay.
I don't have a concrete hint of go to Google and type this. No, it was really about, okay, the more I was reading, the more I was accumulating points to research, and I was doing my notes. Okay, if I want to get this about, for example, law of commerce, this, okay, I'm going to the Ministry of Commerce. If I need this and this and that, okay, I need to go to the labor law. If I need this and that, let's go there. So it was a lot of things, and that I was considering, but definitely the fact that I knew where to search helped a lot, and that's why this is no secret, not magic, that's why I was really supporting Mexico, because I was ready to support certain things based on that information I was gathering. I
Yeah.
know there are great countries in which a lot of companies have been successful in settling down businesses from Europe to Latin America, but one of the things that it's clear that you need to have one person on site with the local passport if you want to make things happen. This is something you cannot skip, because
Okay.
all the official regulations needs to be attached to a national person of that very country. So in this context, I think it was clear for us that, okay, despite we could have several options, the research I did was bold enough to support that Mexico was a country in one hand, but in the other hand, that I could potentially become that person before taking the decision, making that happen without the need to go there and find someone to represent our company on site.
I see. I see. Okay. So it seems like it's crucial that we have you as a person who has that Mexican citizenship, and it makes the legal side of it all a little bit simpler. I wonder how you would answer a question like this then. What about a different company from ours, a different team from ours that doesn't actually have that advantage? What advice would you give to a company that wants to expand to, well, let's stick to Mexico as an example, right? But we're thinking just global expansion in general. What if they don't have a Jose Mendoza on board? What would you
There
do
are
with that sort of
possibilities,
thing?
and let me tell you, before taking the final call, I was lucky enough to have contact with different people who did that before 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and even the top one, it was 15 years ago. So
Wow.
I was discussing with a lot of people, and some of them were not Mexicans, because I was basically in Mexico, but actually there are different possibilities to do that. So you need to get a representative, or you need to hire a proper company representing you. So there are different possibilities to make that happen. You don't have to have a person with a citizenship. to go there and settle a company in a given country, but definitely this speed things up. And especially because of the contact I was having with the board, I knew which were the questions appearing, and then I was doing my homework and I was coming back with the necessary answers. I think the only thing that could be a hurdle, if I can say like that, if hiring as another person not belonging to the company, is just to bring this person up to speed into the mentality culture of the company, and
Yeah.
then to keep on working on this very specific of the processes. So that would be the only thing to consider.
Yeah, I can see that it's a huge risk, right? Because if you don't have that personal connection, then you're taking somebody on that's new, and you're basically making a bet that they will represent the company culture as it is on an entirely different continent where there's, I mean, even in the world of remote work, there's still a little bit of a disconnect when somebody's working on another continent. So I can see how that's an additional challenge. But you mentioned something that I think is like crucial for the picture, the image we're building of the work to be done here. You spoke with other people who have already done it, right? I feel like, so many times when I ask on Tech Leaders Hub, how did you do this? How did you do that? That is the answer. They're saying, found somebody who did it and I asked them. And that's how I got there. And, that's why I'm excited to be talking with you. You're somebody who did it, and people who are curious can now ask you about how that happened. So, just a little bit more detail about that. Then, did you like have those people already in your network? You knew who to reach out to, or did you do anything special to kind of find these people to talk to?
It was a little bit of everything. Some of them it were acquaintances of friends of mine. Some of
Sure.
them were recommendations of my network. Even STX had on its own portfolio of contacts. People eager to speak with us.
Yeah.
So it was different sources, and that's why I really think that the information I was getting was richer because it was coming from different sources.
Exactly.
Um,
Okay, and I understand that completely. So, I mean, obviously, it's good to have like a large organization to lean on, right? More people, more contacts, more clients, more connections. That obviously is an advantage. I can see that here. Did you have any trouble convincing them to give you their time? Did you send out 20 pitches, only 3 got answered, or was it more
Not
like
really.
not
People
really?
were really happy to share information because I
Ah,
think they were looking at a mirror sometime in the past. I
yeah.
think they heard this energy and enthusiasm I had while asking, well, how to overcome this, how to make that happen, how to this, how to that, and then they were smiling because they say, okay, I have done that, and let me tell you, don't make the same mistakes as I did in the past, just better focus on this, and that. And they were super open and super honest in their feedback. And I
Oh,
was really like taking all the notes I could. But definitely, this was helping a lot because, well, I need to honestly say there were topics I was not considering because I constantly didn't know. So those people helped me a lot in polishing out all this approach to really
hmm,
being able to say, I'm now ready because I know that we need to consider this, and that. On the other hand, I think that STX Next was providing a lot of support. We say, okay, let's get serious on this. What
sure.
kind of support do you need? Okay, and I was pitching all my essential needs, and we as a company, we're creating this like internal team, and each one of these persons was doing its own part, doing their own research on these topics,
Okay,
etc., etc., and that bring the whole of it together. Yeah,
right.
that brought the glue we were needing to put all this program, I could even call it like that, together, understanding,
Okay.
okay, next step this, next step that, next step that, and that also helped us out building the whole timeline, understanding when can we really kick this off.
Okay. I wasn't aware that there was, that you had other people kind of double checking your research and being part of that team, responsible for putting
Maybe
it
not
together.
double checking is the exact same word, because for example, when I was hearing that we need to really consider how to make a proper registration within the Mexican government, uh, it seems only like one point, but underneath you have like five different things to achieve. You need to get a proper representative, a notary, this and that, and those subtasks, let's call it like that, are the ones who were divided between this team, and each one was responsible of performing that thing.
Okay.
So that's basically what was happening.
Okay, so expanding on the research and taking on some of these additional tasks. I misspoke. Apologies about that. So we should do like an acknowledgement section. Is there anybody in particular you would like to kind of highlight for the support that they gave within this process?
I think that in general the board, I would say like all the members in there. So I would say Michał Kwiatkowski for sure, Matt Harris for sure, Maciek Gierwa as also our
Our
CEO.
CEO, yeah.
Um, well, yeah, I think those were the most involved at the beginning when really polishing out the approach. But at the end of the day, also our CFO Jacek. So he has been super
Of course.
helpful, really explaining a lot of things, more finance related. But yeah, it is this sense of team. I could even
Yeah.
go down and start saying, I have received a lot of support from our marketing team, employer branding, recruitment, because everyone right now it's involved in specific parts of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think I would need to go down to really a lot of different names, because this is a team thing. Maybe
Of course.
I'm just the one who's trying to keep everything together, but definitely this is something we are currently achieving as a team.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about this is that, of course, obviously you're the face of the project, undeniably, but it's, at the end of the day, it's always a team effort. And the team is not just at STX. We talked about these people that advised you from outside of STX. So, it's really exciting to think about that teamwork element of it. I'm curious about this one thing that you mentioned just like a minute or two earlier. I imagine if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn as much as they can about, how to actually do this thing. You mentioned something about, the mistakes that you potentially could have made, or, your interlocutors made that they didn't want you to repeat. Can you give us any peek behind the curtain and get into the nitty gritty of, okay, what exactly are the pitfalls here? What exactly do you have to watch out for?
Yes, there is one very specific, and actually, it was for me one of the key and essential aspects to make all this happen. And that's related to the fact that when you are opening another entity of the company far, far away, there is a
Hmm.
natural trend to create a wall dividing those two worlds. Yeah.
Hmm.
So the persons who were building those very delivery centers before in the past were building kind of silos, and they were building all that structure within that country, and they
Hmm.
were creating their own processes or evolving the processes
Hmm.
without spreading out the information back to the headquarters,
Yeah.
which was working. Yeah, but at the end of the day, this resulted in having two different companies.
Hmm.
And in our case, I would like very much to have one single STX Next operating in different places,
Yeah. Okay.
which for
Understand.
me it's related to embedding the current culture to the new branch.
Yeah.
So just to put out these brick walls, and create these collaboration schemes, and really bring that down to the DNA of the people who will be joining our company, so everyone will know that we are part of one single team.
Okay.
That's basically it, just to avoid creating these separated silos, but keep on building one single company.
So, can you name one particular thing about our culture that you are especially focused on maintaining in the Mexico branch?
Huh. That's a hard one. I actually have been always focusing on our very values, because I
Okay.
think those really represent us, and this is something I would really like to also bring back to Mexico. Also, a little bit of history in here. When I moved to Europe, um, for a certain moment, I stopped believing in Mexico as a country. Yeah, because of different things related to my personal history or my family's history, but I stopped believing in Mexico as a country. I started living in Poland, and it took me a while to come back to Mexico. Uh, but when that happened, and it basically was like 6 years after I moved, I said, okay, the country has evolved, but there are still very important differences between the way Mexicans think, the way the Mexicans act, and the things I have already seen in Europe. I
Mm-hmm.
said, if I could put a little bit more of salt and pepper in here, because Mexico is a really rich country, has a really, really specific, nice culture. If I could put some elements of the European culture, I think this could be a bomb. This could be fantastic.
Okay.
Uh, and those things really led me to really having this ideal approach in which I could bring this know-how and these cultural aspects of our company to the Mexicans. For example,
Mm-hmm.
I love from STX that we have this win-win approach. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that we really try to make deals which are favorable for anyone, not for one party, but all the parties involved. Transparency, just to be able to speak about the problems and what went wrong, not only to put fireworks when everything goes fine, because this is not real life. Everyone can make mistakes, but being ready to speak out loud, say, okay, yeah, this went wrong, but our lessons learned from that are this and that. Let's next time it's going to be better.
Yeah.
These kinds of these very values, which is, well, part of our culture, are the very things I would like to send out together with me, building the Mexican entity.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Jose for president. No, that was great. That was great. Yes, and I do think about these values a lot too, because I think it's day-to-day work to keep those strong within the company, and certainly you have a special challenge ahead of you moving those to a whole different continent. But just hearing you talk about this, I have a feeling that that can really work. So. Mm, just one more follow-up question about this then. And of course, if any of the watchers and listeners have specific questions, I will give those priority. But just as long as we're satisfying my curiosity, do you have in mind any particular steps of how you're going to maintain this code? Because I know what you want to maintain and what you're excited about, maintaining and propagating. But in terms of how, what do you think is going to be the most important to make sure that the people in the new branch are going to feel part of STX Next?
This was part of the discussions even during the planning process.
Okay.
First of all, I would say that even before going into that, it's super important to really show who we are as a company.
Mm-hmm.
Because STX is a well-known brand in Europe, and maybe for our American customers, but not necessarily in the Mexican market. So I would like, first of all, to really show off in a positive way
Uh-huh.
what we do, what we are good at, and why it would be interesting to join us as a
Mm-hmm.
company. Once that happens, and really people start to see us in a different way, as the place I would like to work in.
Yeah.
We would like to create this synergy between teams. So I think it's super important that if we have specific customers, just to blend the competences and the talent from different entities, Mexico and Poland, and just
Mhm.
to build these super strong, talented teams delivering
Mhm.
the services to our
Mhm.
clients. Because in this way, we are going to be blending the both of worlds. Yeah. So
Mhm.
just to have these rich teams, which will be learning from each other. Yeah. And
Mhm.
then if that happens, that we need to, for example, make use of these specific competencies of a certain individual for the sake of another project, this very individual will already know how to operate, what are best practices, what to do, what to avoid, and it's going to be copying that approach with their next projects and project
Right.
teams. So
Right.
this is going to create this continuous synergy between people, because they will need to speak to each other, they will need to interact with each other, to learn from different way of approaching certain issues, etc., etc. So that's
Mhm.
basically it, just to enable them and facilitate the cooperation between different departments and different offices.
Okay, thank you. I love that answer, and I think yeah, it would be interesting to see those blended teams where a designer might be here in Poland, here in Poznań maybe, and then the development resources might be the developers might be in Mexico at the same time, and definitely that enables exchange of experiences, best practices, etc. Like you're saying. I wanted to switch gears a little bit here because I feel like there are some fundamental questions that we haven't maybe answered that well yet, and some people might be curious, even some people from within the company that might be curious about this. You mentioned this thing about Mexico being a train, and that the first train kind of already departed, the one that you should have gotten onto, the first one, but we're catching like the second one, or I love that allegory. Basically, it really sticks in your mind. I think it was, if I were to guess, it might have been part of how you actually did the job of convincing and having these conversations with the board. So can you tell me something about what specifically makes Mexico, or you can talk about the location we chose, such an attractive train to get onto, and how, why we're choosing, other than your personal connection, this particular location, why it makes sense and why now?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, at the very beginning, I didn't have much connections in the Yucatan Peninsula, because I come
Uh-huh.
from Mexico City. So
Yeah.
basically, all my family comes from Mexico City. I finished my studies in Mexico City, and all my life was really attached to Mexico City.
Yeah.
But as part of the things I was reading, and even during this period in which I was reluctant to come back to Mexico, I was reading different things, how the country is doing, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
for the very first time, I heard about Merida as a city. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew the city because it's the capital city of the state of Yucatan, and well, every Mexican knows there are 30 states in the country, but I never took the opportunity to go there. It's quite far. It's more than 1,000 kilometers from Mexico City.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was one article that jumped in and really caught my attention. The title was something like Merida and its prominent progress, something like that. And it was speaking about the level of development and the level of progress the city was having,
Mm-hmm.
the level of investments, even some transnational companies moving from other states to the city to establish their operations in there, the volume of external investments, so on. So, wow, that looks quite interesting. And then another article speaking about the levels of security of the city, which really ranked as the safest city in the country.
Oh.
These kind of things really caught my attention, and kept me interested in doing more and more research into that specific area. And then I learned about the universities, and some other stuff. But what really was linked to this analogy of the train was that these 3.5 4 years ago, when we started hiring people, we managed to hire a very talented young individual from this very city of Merida.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, it was quite hard to convince people to join our company, because first of all, we were unknown, and not a lot of companies from abroad were in Merida. And it was
Mm-hmm.
okay, this company from abroad looking for talent in Merida, no, this is fishy. But
Yeah.
now,
Okay. Got it.
now the history is completely different. Now you have really renowned companies settle already in Merida. As I
Mm-hmm.
said before, companies from the States are settling mini offices in Merida, as branch offices, and that happened only within 4 years. So
Mm-hmm.
the natural reaction I had is, if that already happened in these 4 years, because even if COVID was there, yeah, and some other stuff, if we want to yet wait 2 or 3 years more, then the second train can live without us. So that was part of the analogy, and that was why I was trying to illustrate in a certain way that during those 3.5 4 years, all this happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
the company went from point zero to point 10. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if we want to be part of that history, we need to act fast. So
Yeah.
that's basically it.
Okay. Yeah. Again, the analogy really speaks to me, and again, it's a matter of there actually was somebody there that we met. Actually, it made a difference to have somebody. It's like I'm drawn to this what you said about this particular person that we hired from there, but I can see the perception now is entirely different there in terms of looking at foreign companies going in. It's not so unusual as I understand in Merida. Not
Definitely, yes.
anymore.
And I even, sorry to interrupt you, but just to bring a little bit more of accent here, I even
Sure.
wrote a post and I published that some 2 or 3 weeks ago about the history, because I also went to Merida as a tourist, because was very curious about, well, let's see if that really is like I think. And it was the very first time after all these around these years when I came back to Mexico, but it was to Merida because I wanted to see it with my own very eyes.
Okay.
And when I arrived there, I said, well, oh, this is true. Even, this really like subjective things as the air, the quality of the air is a really pure air because it's near to the sea. But it's not about that. It's about what the city represented even back then, what
Hmm.
really got me in, and that's why it really kept me motivated enough to really saying, okay, I want to bet for this very place because I think it has a huge potential, and I
Okay.
would love to make use of that potential.
Okay. I love that. That is so quotable. I'm gonna make sure this is on our social media. Sometime in the next few weeks. Your picture and this quote. I want to invest in this city with such great potential. And anybody who might be from Merida listening to this, I'm sure they're extremely happy to hear it. You know what this also brings to my mind? This tells me that cities need PR too. They need great marketing too, because you mentioned you saw this article about Merida. This was kind of the beginning of this of your interest there, and it really goes to show that what these cities are doing to kind of spread the word about their success, it also makes a huge impact, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Exactly. Okay, so again, there's a lot of things to follow up on here, and again, I would like to encourage anybody listening to ask your questions if you're curious, especially if you're thinking of facing this challenge yourself, either soon or even years down the line. What I'm curious to ask about is anything that kind of surprised you in the process. I'm thinking, there was the process of research, there was the process of obviously having the conversations inside and outside the company. Was there anything that was more time consuming than you thought? Was there like a detail that you thought would take you an hour and it took you 2 days? Or was there anything that kind of stands out to you as something that if you were to do it again, you would invest 10 times more time in this and actually not do something else? Anything here that you can pass on to the people after you who are going to be doing something like this?
This is going to be like the beginning of a bad joke, but I think this is not exclusive to Mexico. So the amount of regulations and formal administrative things you need to consider before starting the whole process.
Okay.
So we really needed to have a lot of different discussions, and we even needed to have some consultancy from some law firms just to help us out understanding the different steps needed
Hmm.
to be taken in order to move forward. And I never considered that all this bureaucracy was supposed to take that long.
Yeah.
So, but as I said before, I think this is not exclusive to Mexico. Even I
Yeah.
remember when I moved into Poland, it was the exact same thing. So it
Yeah.
was also you need now this paperwork, this, and that was getting crazy simply. But well, it's part of the formalities you need to fulfill. But just answering to your question, yeah, I thought this might take a bit less, and
Yeah.
it ended up taking us more time than expected.
Okay. The law firms that you consulted, were these in Poland or in Mexico?
Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
because
mean,
they really need to understand the local market, the
of
local
course.
law, in order to provide the proper assessments. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, of course they were in Mexico. This is my privilege as the host, I get to ask the naive questions. But just so if anybody else was wondering, hopefully, of course, they were in Mexico. That's great to know. So I would love to get just a little bit more detail here. You were mentioning, bureaucracy, sure, but what is kind of under that label? You were saying, a little bit about labor law, a little bit about, starting a company. But if you were to make this path a little bit shorter for somebody else, it's like, look into XYZ, put that on your list, earlier than I did. Any kind of detail that you can give here?
Uh, for these specific points, I would never cut corners.
Uh-huh.
Because to get necessarily input from someone or from a company that really tells you, if you want to go this path, you need to consider this and that. If you want to go a little bit more right, you need to consider this and that. Just for
Uh-huh.
instance, if you consider how to open a company, you need to know what's going to be the legal structure of the company. In
Uh-huh.
Poland, we
Yeah.
have the same. If you want to have this limited responsibility company, or if you want to have a private society of this kind of stuff, it has implications for the future. So in the case of Mexico, it was no different. We needed really to understand if we want to have this kind of company. Okay, then it's this and that, and the same for the rest options. So this kind of stuff you cannot avoid, or you cannot treat like, okay, do it later. No, those are things you need to understand from the very beginning, and you cannot find any kind of shortcuts for that. It's better to
Mhm.
spend, even if right now I needed to push the gas pedal in other areas, just to catch up within the project timeline. But for me, right now, I have the certainty that everything was well done in at the very beginning, and those fundamentals are solid enough so we can now build further. So
Okay.
I would say, yeah, it's painful, but do your homework properly.
Do your homework. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, this is great, because what I was looking for is like, you should go for this option here, this option there. When you have these different options, these are the best options to go. And here's like a template for a global branch. But what you're saying, obviously, of course, is every case is going to be different. And you need, it sounds like specialized consulting, and to have these conversations yourself, so that you can actually find the best options for you and your situation. And every company is different. Am I like on the right track here?
Yes, and especially because of the importance of this milestone for the company.
Yeah.
So we know that we need to take every single step as concrete and as solid as possible. So that's why every time that a kind of a hurdle or a hard topic appears, yeah, we say, okay, what's going on? What do we need to do? Yeah,
Yeah.
and we do, but and we do it constantly. So we don't leave anything for luck. Oh, let's see. No, this is not luck. We need to really understand what are the implications of every single step we're doing, because otherwise we can have just a shot back in a couple of months.
Right.
So not shortcuts, not speeding. Just take your time. That would basically be my advice here.
Okay. Okay. Take your time. I love that. So I'm thinking of how to use, because we only have just a few minutes left, and the time went by so fast, as it always does. Um, so in these last few moments that I have, usually there's like a section for announcements we have for our audience, but that's when we have guest companies, right? I'll ask about that too. But before that, I wanted to ask you, could you tell us a little bit about the, to finish this off, a little bit about your kind of your vision, your ambition for STX Next Mexico? Like, this is obviously just now starting. You're moving there in a few weeks. It's going to be kind of zero of the whole project, but what are you hoping this is going to look like in a year's time, or whatever timeline you're thinking of here? What is the vision, and where do you want this to get?
Very good question. So we are thinking big. Yeah, so we are taking this step, we are taking this challenge, and not because we want just to let's see how it goes. Let's get just a couple of good talents and then just come back to Paul. No, we are thinking big. So this is a very bold step, and the aim is to really build in Poland is kind of say like that, let's build a second really strong healthy leg of our company in there. So that's going to
Yeah.
be a second pillar of our company, and that's going to be helping us out bringing the company to the next level.
Yes.
So the plans are very ambitious. We want to keep on growing. We want to keep on serving better our customers in the US market, and that's going to be allowing us to do it. So that's why we are really looking forward to showcase who we are, to really become an attractive employer in the local market, and just really bringing this win-win approach. People can find a super nice employer and us. We can find really good, talented IT individuals joining the company. We can keep on serving our clients, and that's it. So the triangle simply just becomes full.
Okay, so thinking big, a second leg for the company. That all sounds great. Can you give me? I mean, if you're willing to share, obviously, but in terms of what kind of goals you're setting for yourself in terms of X amount of headcount and X amount of time, like so people can have an idea of how this is going to grow, at least according to our plans.
We are building the plans specifically for the next years, so there
Uh-huh.
is still no specific numbers, but of course we are talking about hundreds. So definitely this is a long-term plan and long-term investment of the company. So I wouldn't dare that. Yeah, now our plan is to find 10 people in the next month. No, because right now it's about settling everything up, settling the right
Uh-huh.
processes, creating these interactions I was speaking
Yeah.
before about. But rather, I would think about the midterm and long-term plans, which are related to those hundreds of numbers, in which we will have a really super healthy delivery center, which is going to keep on developing itself, just serving those clients I said. So yeah, that's why I said the plans are big, but right now we are defining what are going to be the measurable goals, at least for the next year, but that's going to be still happening in the upcoming months once we have already started up.
Okay. So I imagine this as I envision this as, your focus right now is on creating the right environment and the right structures there, and then focusing on adding, people to that environment when it's ready for them.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. That sounds great. And obviously sounds logical. All right. We should be wrapping up here in just a moment then. So let me ask about some kind of things that are maybe of interest to people listening to this. Some people might be interested, or maybe even thinking, listening to you. Where do I sign up? Is Recruitment for Mexico already open, or where should people go if they want to jump on that train? Let's call it that.
We are going to open up the recruitment official process next week. So
Next week.
all our vacancies are going to be available on our website.
Uh-huh.
There will be a specific tab called Merida. So
Uh-huh.
we are finishing all the preparations. So stay tuned. From next week, we are going to start up formal recruitment.
Okay, awesome. Actually, I missed this comment coming in from Paulina from our very own marketing team saying, I may consider relocating. All right. Would love to have a representative of marketing there on site. All right. So Jose, is there anything else that you wanted to mention on the stream, but I didn't get didn't ask a question that kind of led you there? Anything else you want to leave our audience with before we say goodbye?
No, the only thing is that I'm really super happy to be part of this super important and prestigious project of ours. I would only need to think about this mark of trust to make these things happen, because this is a major milestone in our growth strategy. So I'm really super excited about the next challenges. I just can't wait any longer just to start making things happen.
Yeah. I absolutely feel that, and also being, part of this company, I've seen it grow in the last 5 years. I even posted about this on LinkedIn. I believe yesterday that I'm happy to have stayed at this company. And to have grown with it. I always wanted to work at a company that's global with branches all across the world, and I'm happy that I can just be here and grow alongside my team and to watch this change happen and to be part of this change and do my small part in promoting, for example, that we're going to Mexico by having this live stream with with you, Jose. So thank you so much for being my guest. I want to do the traditional thing. Some people from from outside of STX Next might be watching, and you might be thinking, okay, I listened to this stream about this whole new branch, but what does STX Next actually do? So just to put this briefly. We're a software development company that is now going global, as you could hear during this stream. We have attracted some of the best talent in Poland: designers, developers, DevOps engineers, machine learning engineers, data engineers. I'm probably missing some departments that are going to message me after this. What about us? Check out our website at stxnext.com to see how we can help your digital product grow faster and win on the market. And I always say we attracted some of the best talent in Poland, but I'm about to start saying the best talent in Poland, and we're attracting some of the best talent in Mexico very, very soon to be able to serve clients all around the globe as we have done over the past years. But now we'll be able to do that so much better with our with the new branch that is starting. Thanks to you, Jose. So that is it for this stream. Thank you so much, watchers and listeners, for joining us here today. Or if you're listening to the recording, hope you enjoyed it. Jose, anything more to add before we end the broadcast?
No, Kuba, thank you very much for having me. It was super nice talking to you. And I will be waiting for you in Merida.
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking about visiting, so you better be ready for that. But for now, that's Tech Leaders Hub for today. Join us tomorrow when we will be having Monday.com as our guest, and Ron Zionpour from Monday.com. Very worth attending that session too. Same time as this one started. I'll see you there, definitely. And for this one, that's it. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.